God bless you, everybody. Good morning. Suffering don't last always. Our devotional text comes out of 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 10. And it says, "And after you have suffered for a little while, the God of all grace, who has called you to his eternal glory in Christ, will himself restore, support, strengthen, and establish you." And I want to encourage somebody on today that while we are suffering, there is restoration, support, and God will establish and strengthen us even in the midst of suffering. But the thing is that, people of God, we do not suffer alone. What we go through, God goes through it with us. Everybody suffer. Don't be afraid to go through a trial and a tribulation. Because when you go through a particular trial and tribulation, there is a lesson in that trial or tribulation that God is trying to teach you. Come on, somebody. And it is important that we understand that. It is that many people, they don't go through what they go through alone, because they know that God is with them while they are going through what they are going through. That's why the Bible tells us in the book of James, whenever you face trials of many kind, consider it nothing but joy. Because it was nothing but the joy of the Lord that kept you in the midst of that suffering and in the midst of that trial and tribulation. It is important that we understand that. And then in verse 11 in 1 Peter 5, chapter 10, verse 11 says, "To him be the power forever and ever." God is the one who gives us the power to do what he has called us to do. We have to stay alert and keep our guard up in the midst of suffering. You got to hold on to your faith. God has great plans for you. And the thing is that after you suffer a little while, because we know that it don't last always. Even as you go through suffering, you got to know that God has a plan for you. And it's going to come into fruition. But the thing is that, people of God, after we suffer a little while, the plan that God has is going to put us back together. God is going to put us on track. But the thing is that suffering is a process that leads to restoration. So if you are in need of restoration, ask God to help you. Come on, somebody. There is a plan. But you know what? Suffering don't last always. Because it's a process to help you to get to that strength, to that support, to that establish, and to that encouragement and refilling.